Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love talking about the Dorothy Day House of Memphis. We're honored to be joined by their executive director, Tracy Burgess. How are you doing, Tracy?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Doing very well. So when you talk about Dorothy Day House of Memphis, the power of keeping families together who are experiencing homelessness, there's a lot of power in what you're doing. And so let's start with a little bit of history and context. Give us some background for Dorothy Day House of Memphis.
Absolutely. The organization was formed in 2004, in the early 2000s, with the purpose of housing the entire family. When the group of founders at the time did their research here in the city, they realized that there wasn't a place that would keep a married couple together or house preteen and teenage boys. And so they felt that they could do that with the inspiration of Dorothy Day and how she cared for those in the early 1900s.
When you talk about keeping a family together, I think obviously for any parent, it's like, I would not want to be separated from my kids. But talk about why that's so important for the transition of going through the process. And we'll talk about the support and everything you do, but then coming out together as a family stronger coming out of homelessness.
Well, I think that if we could take a moment to put ourselves in anyone else's shoes and in a family's shoes that who are experiencing homelessness, none of us would want to be separated from our core family unit. We make decisions better. We have less trauma. We're less stressed. If we're all in one place and we all know that we're safe and we're able to move forward together. And so that's really the reason that the house was formed, was so that that one burden could be lessened if everyone could stay together.
Yeah. And when you talk about a house, it is a physical house and actually houses. And so talk about the houses.
Yes. So the first house opened in 2006, and it was the only house available until 2018. In 2016, we have a great board of directors, but at the time we had a great board who decided that they wanted to move forward and open more locations. So in 2018, we opened up Loretta's house. You can see that it's a home. We have a great video tour on our website, dorothydaymemphis.org, where you can see these two adorable kids giving you a house tour. And then we opened up the third home in 2020. And so we can now house 8 to 9 families at a time, three families in each home, and continue to move forward into the future.
Talk about what the families have access to in terms of their own room. And so when you think about a house, you've got the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. So
Sure.
Talk about, the things that the families get to experience as a part of living in the home.
Absolutely. Each one of our homes has 3 bedrooms. That bedroom is the family's personal space. And then they share all the communal space. So they share the kitchen, the dining room, the living room. There's a playroom with computer access for both the parents and the parents and the children. And then they share bathrooms. They cook for themselves. They clean up after themselves. They keep their own family schedules. Unless, of course, we see something that just may be unstable. It's learned, but it's unstable. And we help them work through those schedules to improve things for them and their kids.
Yeah, and I definitely want to come back to that aspect is kind of the mentorship, the support network. So I'll come back to that in a second. Talk about how families find you, because one of the things I think that makes you very unique is the focus on situational homelessness. So when you talk about, living paycheck to paycheck and having a car breakdown and you can't get to work and all of a sudden you find, for you and your family, you're homeless or, something like that, you have a chance to step in and really help transition them back into being able to get on the right path. So talk about the families, how they find you and some of the things that they're experiencing in their lives.
So the way that families find us, many times they call us directly They've heard from us from their children's school. They've been referred to us by a hospital, referred to us by MIFA or other organizations that know of our work. And so many times families call us or email us directly, and that's how they find us. So what they're experiencing, things have changed a little bit in what families are experiencing. Many times it is situational. It's some sort of trauma. It could be a house fire or medical issues or a car wreck or things like that that could affect any of us. But now we're starting to see more job loss or still to this day underemployment and a large number of evictions that are happening. Even with all of the CSA funding and the government assistance that's available, we're seeing a large number of evictions with our families. And that's a difficult thing to move forward from. So we're putting some plans in place to help that in the future.
Go ahead and switch over. Let's talk about some of those plans, but let's really focus on the support network because, as you mentioned before, working with the families through some of the challenges and some of the things that they need help with. And so you have a ton of volunteers who have, their own expertise and specialization, are able to step in and help with things like financial planning. And so talk about some of the things that you do to create that wrap around that support network and really start developing these plans individually and obviously as a family.
Absolutely. With that support network, many times our families have walked away from any support that they may have had, whether that was seemingly good or whether it wasn't, they've walked away from it. And so there is, the plan is to always keep the families at the center of our work. We support them first with our staff. And I'll go into more detail about how we're expanding our staff to better support our families. And then they are supported beyond that by our ministry team, which is a group outside of the staff that work with them on major decisions. And then beyond that are volunteers. And in the last year, we had 1,052 volunteers provide, it was close to 3,000 hours of service. But that is, we have a volunteer who teaches driving lessons. Not many people sign up for that task, but we have people who do that. We have volunteers who are retired teachers that help kids get on grade level, who give them extra support throughout the week. We have volunteers who help take parents to job interviews or to help coach them in interviews. Whatever the case may be, whatever the family needs at the time, that is the plan that is created. And each plan is different. And the way that we're expanding our staff to better support that is that we have a vision, we're calling it 567. And that's a 5-year plan to raise $6 million to accomplish 7 major initiatives. But one of those around the families is a family support specialist. She's been with us for about 4 years. She was promoted from a house manager to that position, and she creates curriculum or she connects families to resources outside of the organization, especially around situations that we see with many families. So it's the budgeting, or it's women's health or nutrition, parenting skills, things of that sort, that she can create a curriculum that's specialized to that person, but also is broad enough to reach a number of the families that we serve. It's a pretty great experience.
What does success look like in terms of the families coming in? So you don't have to name names, but give us an illustration of kind of what success looks like and the impact on the families.
So the 3 things that we really look to help families with are 1, employment, making sure that they take this time in the house to find employment that will sustain them long after they need our services. We look for transportation, whether that's access to public transportation or private transportation, and then we look for housing. Those are the 3 basic goals of success. Beyond that, many times families get children stabilized in daycare or in public school. They take care of medical issues that they haven't taken care of in a long time. They receive some sort of education or job training. Those are the things we don't always track on a day-to-day basis that also get accomplished. I mean, just the sheer amount of confidence that is gained, or the self-esteem that you see in parents from point A to point B, from the beginning of their time with us to the end. If you could measure that, that would be fantastic.
Well, but that's the life transformation. I mean, that I think is the power of what you're doing. And so you have a number of ways the community can get involved. You mentioned the volunteerism and the number of volunteers and the volunteer hours. So I definitely want you to dive in deeper there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about an upcoming event, and then we'll talk more about the volunteerism and other ways to get involved. But you have Dinner with Dorothy. It's a fundraiser happening Sunday, March 26th. So talk about that event and the importance of that event.
So that event started in 2021 as a virtual event in response to fundraising during the pandemic. We are now bringing it to an in-person event in 2023 at Avon Acres, like you said, on March 26th. It's going to be a fun, family-friendly Sunday afternoon. Coletta's is going to provide a family-style buffet. We'll have live music. We'll have games. Just a very casual afternoon fundraiser. It's brought to us by a lot of great sponsors, but also International Paper and Sims Murphy are helping us put that together. There'll be a live auction and a silent auction. Tickets are available on our website, let me say that. And those funds not only provide for our operations, our day-to-day operations of serving families, but it will also fund the 5-6-7 vision that will deepen the services for our families over the next 5 years.
Nice. Talk about throughout the year, because this is the volunteerism aspect, but also in-kind donations. When you think about all the things that are needed for a home, you think about the toiletries, the sanitation, like all the cleaning supplies, things like that. There's a lot that are easy opportunities to plug in and support your efforts there too. So talk about throughout the year all the different ways we can get involved and support your efforts.
So volunteerism is my favorite. It's because we have a great volunteer coordinator, Louisa Gale. She is phenomenal in finding tasks that benefit us, but also use your skills. We have a man right now who is doing renovations on a bathroom because that's what he enjoys doing. He's a handyman. But she is really, really great at matching your skills with our needs. And so I do love that about her. And people come as individuals, families come to serve and volunteer, whether that's with a meal opportunity or otherwise. Corporate groups come, they do a lot of sorting donations and yard work and cleaning for us. So whatever you can imagine doing in your own home to maintain it, we also do in our 3 homes. So we just have to find the right people who are willing to do the work. And then when it comes to in-kind donations, everything you use in your home, we also use in our home. I never in my life thought that I would have a contact in my phone for a toilet paper emergency. However, you have that now. I have that now. You don't want to run out of those things. But people donate all our paper goods, all our cleaning supplies. They donate food, clothing, furniture, you name it. We can make that work within our homes. And that contact is Eileen Palmer. She is absolutely fantastic in coordinating all of those donation drives for us.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned even the furniture too, because as the families transition into their own homes, they need things like furniture to furnish their new home. And so, so many different ways, whether it's clothing, the food, like you mentioned, serving a meal. I mean, there's so many ways to plug in and to interact with what you're doing, but to be able to make a difference, through Dorothy Day House of Memphis, but ultimately for these families. How has this all changed your perspective on homelessness, making a difference, keeping the families together, the importance of what you do?
My husband and I have been involved for about 10 years personally, but really it's about building community. And beyond building community, it's becoming friends with people who are outside of your circles and not being afraid to do so, and not being afraid of how that stretches you out of your comfort zone. We had a gentleman once who, I mean, you've been to our house, Jeremy. You've seen all the family pictures that we have in our dining rooms. And we had a gentleman once say, they just look like normal people. And yes, they are normal people who have hit a tough spot in life and need a little bit of support to get back to a stable foundation. And so that is where I see all of our service, is that we are in this community together. We're in Memphis together, and we're hoping that we can work together, work as a team to bring everybody along.
Absolutely. You mentioned it before. Go ahead and mention it again. Website. Where do we go to learn more? Where do we go to get tickets for Dinner with Dorothy, the fundraiser happening on Sunday, March 26th? Where do we go?
Absolutely. You can find everything that you need at dorothydaymemphis.org. We're also active on all our social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can catch all of those opportunities promoted on those avenues as well.
Absolutely. Well, Tracy, thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Have a great day.